Hey guys, I'm back. It has been a while since I made my last video, and that's because I had some personal issue that I had to deal with. So I disappeared. I really apologize for disappearing, for being away, especially for people who have been expecting to receive some updates for their income journey. I kind of disappointed you guys. And I know because a lot of people have actually unsubscribed from my channel, and I lost a lot of subscribers, but few people made comment. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to reply to all the comments. But the very important news is that I'm back, and I'm going to be keeping you update on these important income ETFs and also growth ETFs, because in this channel I focus a lot on income ETF because the channel itself is called Think Passive. It's a way to think how to generate money passively. That's the main reason I created this channel. So I'm going to talk about those a lot, especially for people who invest or are expecting to receive distribution from their investment. But the other thing I'm going to be talking, especially now, we have seen these AI stocks and these tech stocks have been doing great. So now and then I usually talk about a growth ETF, individual stocks like AMD, like NVIDIA, ServiceNow, like Palantir, all these individual stocks. I usually go into details on which stock to buy because of the valuation they have, because of the numbers that they have, because I have one of the best tools I usually use. On this channel, I like to look at the numbers. I don't like to just go with the hypes or FOMO, fear of missing out. That's not what we do. I usually go with the numbers to make sure that the numbers are aligned. And I usually compare between different analysts to see if there's no gap between their analytical assessment of the stock that they are talking about. So the first thing here I'm going to start is something that came to my mind. I was looking at AMD stock, and I went to look at AMD ETF, YieldMax AMD Option Income Strategy ETF, AMDY. I want to compare between these two and see, because this comes a lot of time. People always ask, what should I invest in this ETF, or should I just buy the stock itself? There are different preferences. There are people who want to buy these income ETFs because they want income, and some people want to buy a growth ETF because they want their capital to grow. So it depends which camp you are in. But here I'm going to show you the numbers. I told you on this channel, always go with the numbers. So I look at the numbers since inception, since AMDY. This is an ETF from YieldMax. When it was incepted, it goes back to 0.6 years, so less than 3 years. If you look at the price of today is 45.25. So since inception, this ETF has returned 138.6%. So round up to 139. But if you look at advanced micro device, AMD stock itself has returned 242%. So that's a difference between these two. Remember, this is a total return, meaning it's just a return. There's no drip here. If you drip, you're going to make a little bit more than this. So that means if someone wants to invest and grow their money, you always going to do better with individual stocks, the underlying stock of those ETFs from YieldMax or any other companies. In this case, for example, AMD, you'd have more money, but of course, on the way, you wouldn't have any income. So for people who were relying on income when they invested in AMD, of course, they'll be happy because they have gained, and also their ETF has grown. So if we look at the chart, this is a comparison of a chart. You can see here, if you invested about $10,000 from inception, before October 2023, your AMD stock as of today would have been 33,613, 236%. And AMDY would only be 23,110, or around 131%. This is just a stock chart with no drip. So if we look at the numbers, you would see here, you would have gained 498 per week, and this is AMDY. And we look at the AMD stock, the reason there's nothing, you wouldn't get anything there, right? But your share would have gone up by 427%, so you would have gained more shares. And of course, there's no more shares. And in the end, your AMDY would have returned 139%. versus AMD stock, which you would have gained 250%. So this is the main difference between investing in these higher income ETFs versus investing in underlying stock itself, like AMD, Palantir, Tesla, and so on. This is just one of the ETF and one of the stocks that we compare. And fewer times you might come ahead with income ETF like this one. Now let me take you to another very important update, and this has to do with the best ETFs that don't have Nav Erosion. So I'm going to read from this list. The first ETF here is Goop. If you look at the return, has return in terms of the price. This does not include a dividend or distributions. It has returned about 86%. So there's no Nav Erosion on this ETF. And if you look at just return, 1 year return, this is just a dividend with no drips. It has returned 105%. But if you were dripping, meaning you take your distribution and you reinvest back to the share price, you'd have been up 115%. AMZP, you are up about 21%. With the drip, you are about 48%. AAPY, 16%, or round up to 17%. With the drip, you're up 33%. JEPQ, you're up 15%. With the drip, you're up 28%. QQQI, you're up 14%. And with the drip, you're up 31%. And if we look at the SPY-I, you're up 11%. With the drip, you're up 25%. QLDY, you're up 10%. With the drip, you're up 24%. QQQT, you're up 9%. With the drip, you're up 34%. And I'm going to show you a few more ETFs that have done really well. RYLD has returned about 7% with a drip, you're up 20%. XYLD 5%, 16 with a drip. FEPI 4% with a drip, 33%, or round up to 34%. And when we look at the FEPI, there is an extreme difference between the share price return versus the return with the distributions. And this has to do with distribution and the price of this ETF. So whenever you receive those distribution, you invest, you're going to get more income. But the share price didn't do as well. But if we look at the SPYT, 3% and it's 27%. JPI, you're up 2% only. And with a drip or with a return of dividends, you're only up about 11%. JPY, you are pretty much flat. You haven't gained anything within a year. There are other ETFs that have done really bad. As for QQY, TSLP, so these ones are at the lowest end of lowest return. But if we go to the extreme bad returns, we coming to BITX. Check this, has returned negative 53%, and this is a share price. YBTC has returned negative 45%, and even if you drip, you're still down about 12%. BIRO also has done really bad, negative 44%. With your drip, negative 15%. NFLP, same story. MSFY, same story. But there are other ETFs that don't have Nav Erosion, kinda. You can call it Nav Erosion, but it's really not Nav Erosion. For example, IWMY, the price return is negative, but if you include your distribution, you're up. So there's no Nav Erosion on that. And all of these ones here, they have negative return when it comes to their price. But when you include all the distribution you have received, you are up, as you can see here. And by the way, these ETFs here don't include the YieldMax ETFs because I'm going to cover those in the next video that I'm going to give you updates soon. This is update I wanted to keep you updated on because the market has been doing great. So if you want to invest your money, you always have to look at these ETFs that have done in the past year. And you can see and you can compare between the ETF that have momentum and ETF that don't have momentum, and you can decide which ETF you should invest. I always like to look at the numbers and the history behind the ETFs that I'm going to invest, because if you had a good performance in the past, pretty much it might have the same performance in the future. An ETF that hasn't done well since it was incepted, I'm going to try to stay away from those type of ETFs. Now, let me show you something else, and this is update, I think, from YieldMax. It comes to income. I'm going to show you how much they paid. So next, I'm going to give you a very important update, and this is income distribution from YieldMax and Roundhill. I'm going to show you a few ETFs that they have announced a distribution, and this is going to be a group one and a fund of funds. So we'll start with BIGG, RENTI, and SOXX. By the way, these are one of those best ETFs from YieldMax because they don't have as much Nav erosion as other ETFs, because these are their target 12 and they don't pay huge distributions. Target 12 meaning they are targeting 12% yield. So of course you can see the yield is not as big as compared to other single stock ETFs. But then what you get in return is NAV stability. So they don't have NAV erosion as other ETFs. So BIGG is going to pay 52 cents, about 12%, as you can see here, 51 cents for RENTI, and SOXX is going to pay 83 cents, 12%. Unfortunately, these ETFs pay monthly. And for some people, don't like monthly distribution because they feel it's too long to wait. But if you want to make good money without having to lose your NAV, your money that you put in, these are one of the best ETFs. You're going to get 12%. Not many ETFs pay this, but there are other ETFs that pay really well, and they don't have NAV erosion. Actually, I'm going to talk about those ETFs in my upcoming video because I'm really excited to talk about those ETFs. And as you can see here, ROC, return of capital. Some of these ETFs income come from return of capital, as you can see here. So BIGG is going to pay 99% of that 52 will come from return of capital. RENTI, 95% of that will come from return of capital, and 100% of the 83 you're going to get from SOXX is coming from return of capital. There's a lot of debate about return of capital, but for people who are investing in this, especially if you're investing in taxable accounts, you have to talk to your accountant to see which ETF you should invest so you don't have tax consequences. But if you're investing in tax sheltered accounts, there's nothing to worry because you never have to file taxes. Next, I'm going to give you an update on group one, and these are fund of fund. As they pay a little bit higher distributions, and some of them have done well and some of them didn't do well in terms of return, overall return. So now I'm going to give you an update on a fund of funds. The good thing about these ETFs, they do pay weekly. Some of them have done really well and some of them haven't. So as we start with Chippy, is going to pay 60 cents. By the way, Chip is one of the best income ETF when it comes to fund of funds. We have FEET, we have FIVI, we have GPTY 22, 33. The yield is not that much. As you can see here, is 45, 76, 44, 40, but it's way more than target 12. But again, target 12, you don't have the NAV erosion, and these ETFs, you're going to have some NAV erosion for some of them. You just have to look which one you want to invest your money. You look at the mini YieldMax strategic metal and mining portfolio income ETF. When this ETF came out, I talked about this. It's one of the newest. It's been out for a while now. It's going to pay 26 cents, and that's about 30%. QDTY, one of the original ETFs, came out long time ago. 0 day to expiry covered call ETF. They have QDTY, RDTY, and SDTY. QDTY is a NASDAQ, RDTY Russell 2000, and we have SDTY. This is S&P 500. So you kind of have to remember the letter Q is QQQ, the NASDAQ. R is Russell, which is small cap, and we have the S, which S&P 500. They're going to pay 22, 24, and 21. They usually don't pay much, but they are good and steady. I haven't looked at their return recently, but I don't think they have done super good as compared to Roundhill ETFs, but they're going to pay about 28%, 32%, and 25%, round up to 28, 33, and 26. The return of capital, it's pretty much 100%, 74%, 0, 0, 0. So all the RDTY, they're going to have 100% of that income will come from return of capital. Salty, Ulti, YMAX, one of the original YieldMax fund of funds is YMAG and YMAX. They've been out for a long time. and they're going to pay very little. YieldMax is going to pay about 8 cents, and that's at 50%. And this is because the stock itself is not at the higher price. So 8 cents will represent big chunk, 50%. And YMAG, which is Magnificent 7 Fund, is going to pay 18 cents, and that's 72% yield. Pretty good. You're getting a really good yield, but both of them, especially YMAX, hasn't done really well. I invested in this ETF, and finally I did sell my shares because it didn't do really well, and I just invested in something else. And Ulti is going to pay only 40 cents, and that's 65%. Return of capital will be 96%. I haven't checked much about Ulti recently, but I'm going to start making video about these ETFs. So if you're interested, make sure you leave a comment and tell me what ETFs you want me to talk about, right? And I really appreciate you guys, because sometimes I don't know about new ETFs. Sometimes I don't know what's coming, what's news, because I can't know everything. So I get it from your comment. You mentioned something, and I learn from you guys, and then I make a video. I do more research, of course, and I make a video. Oh, before I forget, I want to mention this X and record date for the group 1. It will be May 6th, which is tomorrow. And payment date will be May 7th, 2026. So just a day after that, you're going to receive good distributions if you're an investor of any of these ETFs. If you don't have any of these ETFs so far, I think it's kind of late, because you have to have owned this ETF by yesterday. So if you're watching this video now and you don't own any of these, it will be too late. But again, you can do your research and invest in any of these, and then you'll receive your distribution next week, because they pay weekly. And for target 12, you have a lot of time for these ones, because you'd have until next month to invest in this. Again, if I have a lot of money, honestly, I would put some money in these ones, and you put some money on these ones, because you don't want to just have this high yield, which you're losing your NAV. If you put a lot of money on here, you're going to get a lot of distribution, but also you're going to lose your capital. But if you blend between this and this one, it will be perfect. But I'm going to show you another best portfolio you can invest your money where you don't have to lose, and how you can invest. I have a lot of good ETFs that I'm going to talk about soon. Man, I'm so excited to be back and be able to make this video again. I'm going to talk about a lot of interesting ETFs. So the last thing I'm going to talk here is ETFs from Roundhill. And this has to do with the crypto, YBTC and YETH. We know cryptos have been doing bad, but now they're rebounding. They're coming back again, especially Bitcoin. So it's a pretty good. I personally have a lot of money invested in Bitcoin, but the ETF I'm investing actually is not income ETF. It's more of a growth ETF. But if you're interested to have some income and also exposure to cryptos, especially Bitcoin or Ethereum, then these two ETFs will be one of the ETFs to look at. I'm not saying they're the best, because there are other ETFs that have done well. But now, ex-dividend for these two ETFs will be May 6th, and payment date May 7th. Same schedule as YieldMax. And by the way, with Roundhill, you can literally get distributions every single day if you invest strategically, because their ETF, I believe they pay Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So you can blend and get distribution every single day. That wasn't possible 2 years ago, but with evolution of Roundhill and also YieldMax, you can literally schedule your distributions every single. It's very interesting. Now, how much they're going to pay? This ETF, they don't pay huge distribution. They usually pay around 20 cents to like 17 to 11. As you can see here, YBTC is going to pay 17 cents, and YETH is going to pay about 12 cents. And all of this, 100% of this will be a return of capital. That's a structure that Roundhill usually does. So guys, I really want to make this video to give you an update on the best ETFs that don't have NAV erosion. You can invest your money and grow your money without having to lose your NAV. And also, you're going to receive distributions, whether monthly or weekly. And also, if you want to receive distribution every day, you know where to invest your money. You can invest in YieldMax ETFs and Roundhill ETF, or you can combine them together and invest strategically and pick certain ETFs. Then you're going to have income every single day if you desire to do so. But the main thing here, make sure you don't lose money. So guys, if you have any comments, if you have any suggestion for 2026, make sure you leave in a comment below. And I really appreciate if you haven't subscribed to this channel, make sure you subscribe. What are you waiting for? Because on this channel, I always give you one of the best numbers. And if you like my content, make sure you give me a thumb up, like my videos, because that's going to help me grow and get those subscribers that I've lost back. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you next video. Bye bye.